Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm just trying a spontaneous stream. It is the day before the December SAT in Asia. Uh, in America, it still is the day before the December SAT. It's just the morning before it in America right now. But there's a bunch of people in Asia, presumably, and maybe Europe, who are close to the end of the day before the begins. I can't speak right now. Okay, so I didn't have a lot of time today, but I got home. It's like almost 10 p.m. right now, but I want to just make myself available in case anybody is out there and wanting some last minute encouragement. So I'm just gonna do this stream and see if anybody chats. If I see some chatting, then I might go on maybe like 45 minutes or so, and then we'll just take it from there. If anyone wants to chat, just say hi, and let me know you're here. And if you have any questions on your mind, I can help you with that. I can try my best at least. So I also am going to give a quick update on myself. I was you might if you guys have seen my streams before, you might notice that my background's a little bit different. I'm back in Korea. I'm not in Vietnam, which is where I was literally 2 days ago. I was in Vietnam, so I'm sort of just getting settled back here. And you might hear some background noise just because this street has just gotten increasingly noisier over the years, but just ignore the background noise, please. And from my side, it was a little bit disruptive my schedule in the last like 2 or 3 weeks, but I was starting to get into the rhythm of like creating more videos for YouTube. Then I got kind of busy with work and stuff. So my YouTube activity wasn't as high as I wanted, other than my weekly streams. I'm hoping that during the December winter break period, I'm hoping to stay relatively active, but December is busy for me. I mean, that's when I have a lot of classes. So that's not all my class hours are filled. So if you are interested in classes, you can always message me or email me, which I have that in the description below. But yeah, I'm gonna try to at least do the weekly streams. But I think I'm going to aim to do like one video per week, even during the December, the winter break period. So doing doing or Jung or Zung. Dude, I don't know. I don't know if you can tell. I'm not Vietnamese. So yeah, let me know what questions you guys have. I think that's really it for the personal update because there's not really much else going on. Discord, book club, writing. Yeah, there's a bunch of like little things, but it's not very coherent for me to summarize. So I watched Arcane, and I'm almost finished with Anna Karenina. I have a bunch of other things to read, and I have a bunch of things to write for YouTube, but I'm just a little bit behind schedule right now. Korea is good. It's winter, unlike Vietnam or unlike Da Nang. Da Nang is very not cold, so I got a proper winter here. So it's good to have winter. All right. If no one has any questions, I'm gonna just do my own thing. I haven't been able to catch up on Discord all day, so I'm actually gonna go to Discord right now. Um, ooh, I need to fix up the screen. Give me a sec. Oops, that's not it. Okay. So, yes, that's my mouse. All right, let's get going. Yeah, so it's just been, I haven't been here all day basically. So I'm gonna just go ahead and answer things in Discord unless you guys have questions in YouTube chat. Hey. Okay. Wow, this is actually surprisingly low activity for December SAT. I would have expected more. Okay, and you know what? I'm gonna just make this. I'm gonna write this into the chat just because some of you guys may literally just be joining after I make my announcement. Hey guys, I'm gonna be doing my own thing until I see your questions in chat. If you're here, say hi, and if you have any questions, send them over. All right, so we have literal activity right now, but I think I'll just wait for a bit. Okay, I don't think there's any specific thing for me to get involved here. Okay. Not much is going on there. So I might as well do a little shout out to Trader AP. Trader AP wrote up his kind of like manual for the SAT. Now this is just his. I'm not gonna focus on this too much just because it's not actually mine. But he's a very analytical, or she is a very analytical, or they are a very analytical thinker, and so they actually really broke it down into very specific details. How to approach the test from like not just a mental standpoint but like a practical standpoint. So if you join the Discord server at any point, you can find Trader AP's little share over here in the SAT reading writing channel. Okay, I'm seeing a question right now on YouTube. From my experience, would I say 4, 5, 6 are similar to the real thing in terms of reading and writing? Yes and no. I think it's mixed. I think College Board is kind of doing you guys a little dirty by being more experimental with the question types on the real test than they are on the Blue Book practice tests. The Blue Book practice tests tend to be a little bit more stable in terms of question types and the wording of the questions, but in the real test, they actually are veering a bit from the wording and they're kind of tinkering with it, experimenting with it. And I think that's a little rude, honestly. I think they should have, you know, I don't know, they should have made it more random on the practice tests so that students would know what to expect. But it is what it is. So there, I will say that the blue books will be decent preparation because they're the cleanest ones to use in terms of just like the right answer is right and the wrong answers are wrong, right? A lot of times questions are worded on these third party publisher websites or books that are kind of like artificially constructed, where the right answer, I guess, has to be right because the other three are really stupidly wrong, but only this one is seems kind of random as an answer, but it's the only one that could arguably be connected to the passage, right? So there's a bunch of questions like that that aren't they don't really feel satisfying. You can't really predict the answers for some of them because they're just so like out there. Blue Book avoids all those problems. It is the cleanest, but you have to sort of go into the real test expecting to see a little bit of variance, a little bit of something new, and so that's why I'd say like yes and no. I think 4, 5, 6 in terms of difficulty, I think 4, 5, 6 are quite difficult, right? So you'll see similarly difficult, especially if you're in the module. If you get the hard module, basically. You'll find the difficulty level to be the same, but the question types can be a little bit more, can be a little trickier on the real thing. So just be ready for that. And I mean, I guess you could curse College Board and you can complain about it, but honestly, it's the day before. Like you being negative about it, it's not going to help you at all. Just accept it for what it is and accept that everyone's going through the same experience as you. You're not the only one going through that experience, and just do the best that you can with under the conditions that hey, maybe some of these question types you'll just never have seen them before until the day of the test. So be careful with the question types. If you are actually doing the prediction strategy that I talk about all the time in my streams, then you'll probably be able to consistently double check the question type, right? Because you need to look at the question before you make a prediction. So if you use my prediction strategy, then you will be forced to look at the question, so you'll be fine. But if you're not using my question, if you're not using the prediction strategy, if you're kind of just doing your own thing, I urge you to look at the questions because the questions can change. It might not be exactly the same as you'll see in the blue books. Okay, I'm looking here. Questions include poems. Oh, actually, there's another question in YouTube, but I just saw this, so let me just deal with this first. So right now on my screen, I see struggling with poems. For quick response for poems, be as literal as possible. Don't be too don't be creative with your interpretation. Think of literal. If there are any. For grammar, that depends on you. Generally, for students who I've been working, who have put in a lot of practice in predictions, they don't have to do that kind of use those kinds of tricks. But for you, for tomorrow, switching up the order of the questions might help. Just do what works for you. All right, back to YouTube. So dealing with stress. I mean, guys, I think you guys were viewing, you guys actually might have your own tips. So I'm just going to throw out a couple tips that might work for some people, but most honestly, people deal with stress in very different ways. So like, I could just go on making like an endless list of different things you could try. But if anything, I think it's more productive for people to just share what you guys do. So let me turn that question around. What do you guys do to deal with your stress? With that question out of the way, I invite you guys, please share your, stress management techniques. I'll share a couple that come to mind, and these are not like the same thing. I don't say the same things every time. It's just like whatever I can think of at that moment, I'll just say. So that's what it is. So take it or leave it. If it helps, it helps. If it doesn't, it doesn't. Okay. But um, dude, some of you guys are mouth breathers. You might be surprised at how much it helps with stress if you just breathe through your nose. If you just breathe through your nose, your stress will go down. I know that sounds really stupid, but it will. And there's like scientific research about like breathing. So you can look into it if you really want to, but you really shouldn't be looking into it the night before the SAT. So just believe me and breathe through your nose. The other thing okay, that's the first one that comes to mind. The second one that comes to mind, and this is something that it's very related to a strategy that I talk about, but for reading writing, not for the grammar questions, but for all the other questions, it actually does reduce stress quite a bit to just cover the answer choices when you are feeling overwhelmed. Just block it out with your hand, okay? Just like put your hand on the screen or whatever and just block it out for a second and then just think for a second. And it could even help to just combine my first tip and the second tip together. Just like block it and then take a breath. And then just that one breath, it will take you like, 3-4 seconds. During those 3-4 seconds, your brain isn't just turned off. You're actually thinking about the passage and you're thinking about the question. You're rereading the question. You're kind of coming up with your prediction. It actually might help you just get over that edge of just getting over that sort of panic that you're feeling. The other thing is when you're thinking about stress, when you're feeling stressed, like at this very moment, like at night, right before you go to you go to bed, I encourage you to like. Actually, I'll start with the most obvious thing, like music, something that's kind of like repetitive, and kind of, just kind of gets your mind off of it. So music is really helpful. It's just, it's rhythmic. Our bodies have like these like biorhythms. I forget like the technical terms, but like our bodies like react to music. You can calm yourself down a lot with music. If you've been indoors all day, dude, just even if there's no sun out, like right now in Korea, it's 10 p.m. right now, so there's no sun. It's winter, but even then, just like walk, get your blood flowing, and so this is talking about the day before, but real basic things like that. Also, you might have some lingering stress because you're procrastinating on some real basic stuff. So guys, um, the equipment that you need, just make sure to charge your laptop or your device, right? I think you can have a bottle of water. Oh, I haven't checked this in a long time. Wow, I haven't checked this in a long time. I forgot. But you can bring like a bottle of water. If you have an EpiPen, you have to have your EpiPen. It's helpful to just have like an actual, like right now on your desk, if you just have everything on like one corner of your desk so that you're just ready to, it's already packed so that tomorrow morning you just have to pick it up and go. That can reduce some stress. So make sure to pack all the stuff that you need like in advance. If you can right now, like even while you're listening to me, you can just start doing that. Because getting these like little details, because it's it's not something you have to do every Saturday, right? It's something you're doing for this one Saturday only. So it makes sense to have a special routine at the night before to just kind of get that stuff out of the way to reduce that uncertainty in the morning. And then thinking about stress in the morning, and this stress in the morning, some people literally will benefit by solving some random questions in the morning, but some people will not. And this really depends on you. So if you don't feel like you're gonna benefit from doing more questions on the I don't know, on your ride to the test center, which most people don't actually, then like just do some reading or listen to some music or do something that kind of takes your mind off of it. But ideally, you're doing something that doesn't like numb you, something that's kind of stimulating and kind of wakes you up. Morbid Galaxy says he likes to reset your brain. He or she likes to reset their brain after a hard problem, just taking a deep breath. And that's similar to what I was saying. Morbid is just saying, but it's something I've actually never heard, or I've never personally said this, but yeah, I was kind of talking about doing the deep breath in the middle of the thing, but Morbid's just talking about doing the deep breath after the thing. And I think for the digital SAT in particular, that can be really useful because unlike other tests, the digital SAT, the passages are really short. So you're covering like 20, 30, 40, like you're just covering a lot of different topics, right? And you have to keep transitioning from topic to topic to topic. You're talking about like some bioengineering, and then suddenly you're talking about some monkeys, and then suddenly you're talking about some poet. Right? It just keeps changing topics all the time, right? So it might help to just take that breath even afterwards. Let me see what else is here. Stress, stress. I think you're allowed to take a snack. By the way, I forgot to say this earlier, but just having like, yeah, your water and your snack, and just using that break and getting sugar into your system could be helpful. I just like having Snickers personally, because Snickers are very dense. They're very calorie dense. So I personally like having Snickers wherever I go. Um, yeah, those are some things, and these may work for you. But some people are more they psych themselves out more, and that's not really my personality. But you could be like, you can manifest. I don't know. I honestly can't give those tips really, because it's not really me. But but I'm sure some of you guys have tips for that. I do think it might help to just like take a sheet of paper and to affirm all of the efforts that you've made in the last, month or week or 2 weeks or however long you've been studying. Just like kind of affirm everything that you've been doing. Like, I learned this, I learned this, I learned this, I learned this. I got through, however many practice tests. I grinded, I ground through all this stuff, and it's kind of like reminding yourself of all the work you put in, all the practice you got in, and then just letting yourself kind of reminding yourself of all the progress that you made. And just have that in your back, and just have that just kind of psychologically just settled. I think a bit of reflection might help you. Okay, so those are some thoughts. Maybe I'll have more thoughts later, which I can share later. Sital was asking earlier about prediction. Said spend more time on the questions. Oh, these are that's for stress management. Thank you, Sital. Daniel is dual attending, so good to see you here. And splashing water on your face, yes, that could be useful as well. I think it's kind of similar to like the physiological one, like walking around, splashing water on your face, but little physiological cues to kind of get you going. Having a drink of water, just anything that kind of getting some sugar in you. These little things. Oh, chewing gum, that's good too. Just things that just kind of get your body going will help you deal with the mental stress. What's the thing that causes pain? That reduces pain, like oxytocin. But anyway, whatever it is, I don't know what it is exactly, but kind of get those like chemicals running through your body. So that can really help. What do you think about the method of approaching the reading session? Yeah, I don't like those. I don't like those. They're kind of memey to me. Like, I don't think it's not that you can't, like, if you take an 800 score, like if you made me do it, right? It's not that I'm not gonna get an 800 if I do it that way. Especially if I've practiced it a couple times so that I'm used to it, right? Like, I'm still gonna get an 800 since I could do it forwards or backwards, right? But I bet if you hooked up a sort of like heartbeat monitor and like sort of like a stress monitor on me, I bet that even if I'm used to that technique, I bet it would still make me feel more stressed. Okay, just cause, and I actually bet it would take me more time. Now, this is not an experiment that I think is interesting enough to actually go ahead and do, but like, I am pretty sure that if I went backwards, and even if I did it like 10 times and got used to it, I would still think on the 10th time I would still lose time. I would be slower, and I would feel more stress throughout that experience. And I just don't think it'll be that useful. I think it kind of goes against the general flow. Like, it's just not how we normally use interfaces. We don't usually hit like it's just unintuitive to do that kind of thing. So it adds that like tiny like 5% more cognitive load. I wouldn't recommend that kind of strategy. Now, I know where it's coming from. It's coming from the fact that the second half of the test is easier. So if you're really going to do that, I would strongly, if you want to start with the easier questions, I would strongly recommend that you jump to question 15 first, and then see if that's a writing question, and then go to 16 and see if that's a writing question, and then when you see a writing question, then you start, right? I think you could do that. You can do from like the first writing question, finish the writing section, and then go back to number one and then finish the rest of the test. Now, I personally still don't think that's particular. I don't really recommend that strategy either. But I don't think that strategy is bad. I just don't recommend it because I actually think that's actually kind of like training wheels. I think you're kind of handicapping yourself. You're not really developing more long-term skills that'll help you kind of overcome the initial hurt, the fundamental problem. The fundamental problem is that you guys don't really know when to move on from a question, right? But if you know when to move on from a question, then it doesn't matter if you start at question number one or if you start at question 15, because you always have an internal clock that tells you when to move on. But if you don't have a very good internal clock, then yeah, it helps to just use the external time and focus on the easy questions first. I mean, that could be a good strategy for you. Yeah, so Morbid Galaxy is basically Morbid Galaxy is doing a hybrid where he or she does the word and context questions first, the word and context questions, and then moves over to the writing section and then finishes off like what's considered maybe the hardest questions from questions 8 through 16 or whatever. You know, the most important thing I would say is that, guys, if you've been training the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 2 months, whatever, and if you're kind of used to if you already have a certain rhythm, I strongly recommend not listening to some random dude on the internet tell you that actually a different strategy is better, and then tomorrow on the real test, you're using this new strategy that you haven't trained for the first time in your life. Holy shit, do not do that, okay? Do not suddenly try a new strategy on the real test. Mechanically, it might not seem that different from what you're currently doing. Like, oh yeah, what's the difference between starting at 1 through 27 versus 15 through 27 and then 1 through 14? Dude, mechanically, yeah, it sounds so easy to just change that, but you're discounting the fact, you're forgetting the fact that on the real test, you're going to be way more stressed and you're going to be much more likely to panic. And then you add that layer of complexity, this whole new thing that you've never tried before, and then you're going to start self-doubting yourself so much. Not everyone. Some people have like mental, like minds of steel, where they just like, I execute program, right? But like for most people, I mean, you're gonna start panicking, and it's not good to panic while also using using new tools. Okay, don't do that. So stick with what you're comfortable with, and just accept that even if theoretically what you're currently comfortable with is not the best strategy in the let's just pretend there was some sort of ideal best strategy in the world, right? And then somehow you just discovered this ideal best strategy in the world Friday night. Dude, it's too late, man. Who cares what the ideal best strategy in the world is? You need to be able to execute the strategy. You have to be able to do it, right? That takes training. You need to actually get used to doing that thing. It's not like you're suddenly gonna like. I can watch 1,000 hours of videos, or 1,000 watch 1,000 hours, watch or read 1,000 hours of content on how to do like the perfect squat, and learn how to lock my shoulder blades, and learn how to kind of have that cue of trying to bend that bar or whatever, and make sure to the hip hinge, practice the hip hinge. Dude, I can watch 1,000 hours of videos about a perfect squat, but when I do it, it's a whole different game, man. Like you have to actually practice 10,000 hours. Like it's not the learning of the strategy is not the important part. The actual doing is the important part. So again, do not use any new strategy for the first time tomorrow. That's insane. Just go with what you're comfortable with. Even if the thing that you're comfortable with is not what I recommend, okay? Because it's too late now to change your whole strategy around. Just commit to what you've done. And going back to an earlier tip I gave, affirm all of the effort that you put in, okay? Just because Saul has a different recommendation than the plan that you have doesn't mean that what you've done doesn't. Maybe you increased 50 points in the last 2 weeks. Maybe you increased 100 points. Maybe you increased 150 points, right? Well, that came from something. You were doing something, right? Right? Just remind yourself of that, okay? And just focus on doing that. Let's see. Rose is saying tips for craft and structure and long information and ideas. Okay. That's actually like a lot of questions in one. So let me see how do I how do I break that down? So craft and structure, for craft and structure, I'm just gonna talk about this prediction one more time. I think most of you guys know what I mean when I say prediction, but you know what? Just for shits and giggles, let's actually. Where are we right now? Academy, craft, and structure. Foundations is maybe a little too easy, so let's switch over to advanced craft and structure. And then we have some random question, right? Where is the random question? So let's do craft and structure, but not words in context. Actually, no, let's start with words in context because words in context is honestly the best one to always just get used to, okay? So craft and structure, again, you might, like my entire strategy is prediction, but if you're not used to prediction as the whole reading strategy, then you might not be ready to do predictions on like information idea questions and like the hard logical inference questions because those take additional skills. Like prediction is a step that you take, but within the step there's like many other things that you might have to do that for you to have a proper prediction, right? Or at least a decent prediction, right? So so it might not feel like a good strategy for you if you haven't really practiced it, but you might be surprised at how helpful it can be on just word and context questions. So let's just try one right now. Ooh, interesting. I don't think I've ever seen this. Yeah, I don't think I've ever seen this. Perfect. I have never seen this question, guys. So I have never seen this question. So I did skim down at the answer choices, but I've forgotten all the answer choices. Okay, I don't know what the answer choices are right now. So I can actually just show you prediction in like real time. But I'm gonna slow it down because I'm pretty tired right now. So I'm gonna talk calmly and slowly. But yes, but this is what prediction would be. Here we go. In recent years, economic sanctions. Well, I actually know what economic sanctions are, so I can kind of skip over this part. But here, let's briefly run through it. Penalties designed to alter a government's behavior when the behavior doesn't comply. Okay. Have become frequently employed. Sure. Like we try to sanction Russia, for example. When I say we, I mean the United States. While effective in some cases, they can have unintended consequences such as harming civilian populations. Okay, so this is like when you're trying to sanction North Korea and then you turn out like you end up with like a famine or disrupting global markets, right? Which I'm not going to talk about Trump's tariffs, so forget it. We're going to move on. Some critics argue that economic sanctions tend to worsen the very issue. You know what? I didn't even have to finish the rest of this. Even though normally after a colon, if you probably like watch other YouTubers or like I don't know online, if you like saw some like tutor, like they might have told you about this colon and to analyze this. But honestly, I didn't even need it because I'm like 95% sure of my prediction already. They worsen the issues they aim to resolve. Okay, that's my prediction. I'm pretty sure all of you can not all of you, because I don't really know all of your ability levels, guys. But I'm sure right now there's like around 9 viewers, according or 8 viewers. Okay, whatever. Let's just say there's 10 of you. Out of 10 of you, I'm pretty sure 8 of you could actually, if you just slow down here, I'm pretty sure 8 of you could think of the prediction worsen without the help of the answer choices down here. Okay? So, by creating economic instability, blah, 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 sanctions can lead to an increase in domestic support for the targeted regime. Okay, so tend to something the very issues they aim to resolve. They can actually, worse. So this is actually kind of hard because this part, it's the word support sounds like a positive thing, right? It does sound like a positive thing by itself. So which is why, in school or in your cram schools, right, in your SAT hagwons or academies, you might have learned to like take the words, right? Employed, neutral, harming, negative, sanctions, negative, animosities, negative, support, positive, right? You might have learned to like annotate negatives and positives like that. I think it's helpful if you're like kind of like relatively low score, but if you're trying to score above 700, I think you actually need to get beyond that. Like you need to graduate past that level of thinking because this is a positive word, but it's support for the opposite regime, the one that you are targeting, right? And so you're emboldening them to persist with the objectionable conduct. Now you might not know what objectionable means. It means, hang on, where are we? It connects to this behavior that does not comply, right? The non-compliant behavior is the objectionable conduct. So what does objectionable mean? It means that we have a problem with it. The the controversial, not controversial, but questionable, dubious, sketchy conduct. Yeah. So non-compliant, right, is the kind of general context. So we are actually doing a positive for the negative, which is why you still stick with a negative prediction, right? But when you try to stick those words positive and negative in there, it actually gets more confusing. So just make that prediction. It's easier to just make that prediction. Okay? So here's the prediction. The prediction is worsen. Yeah? And nothing after the colon changed my prediction. So I'm going to look at worsen, and I'm going to pretend I don't have the best vocabulary. Here we go. Oop. Hang on. Something's happening with I don't know why I can't. Why is this? Okay. Oh, okay. I know the answer. I know the answer right away. It took me 1 second because I already had the prediction in my head. But guys, you might not know this word, redress. You might not know exacerbate. You might not know reimburse. You should know commemorate. So commemorate is probably the easiest one out of all 4 of these. Commemorate. You commemorate to like celebrate somebody in memory, right? Like there's a general who led a very successful campaign in your war or whatever. You can commemorate him. Reimburse, even if you don't know the exact meaning of reimburse, you most like if you're American, then you will still have, I would say, at least if you take 10 Americans that don't know the word reimburse, but they're studying for the SAT, I bet 5 out of those 10 will know that reimburse has something to do with money. Now, money is very far from worsen, so I think you can eliminate these 2 just based on that. And then, even you literally don't know what redress and exacerbate are. Now you have the word worsen, and you're just going to do a 50-50 at this point. You're just guessing. You're guessing for the one that sounds kind of bad. Like, what's the thing that sounds like it's worsening? Now, if you're pretty good with Latin roots, then you might know that acerbic, it has something to do with, I think has to do with sour or acid. A sour or acid. Acrid, I think, is the same root as well, right? So you might know that sour, bitter, acid, acidic, right, is kind of related to acer, but you might not know that. So you just kind of have to do a 50-50 guess. But redress means actually to recompense or like to make amends, right, to correct a wrong. So this is actually a positive word. It's the opposite direction of what you want. So you'd end up with exacerbate. But here, here what's happening is that fundamentally what we're doing is there's two skills here. The first skill is, do you even know logically what the passage is trying to say? Do you get the direction of logic correct? And then the second skill is, do you know the right word, right? So here, if you have the wrong directional logic in the first place and you're thinking something like tends to resolve the issues they aim to resolve, right? If you're thinking of something like that, then it doesn't even matter if you know all these words, right? You're gonna get the wrong word anyway. So you have to get the logic down, and then the second is actually the vocabulary, which here the vocabulary can be a little bit advanced. All right, that became a kind of longer demonstration, but anyway, this is just to explain why predictions are useful. Predictions are useful because it does build confidence that you know the right answer, even if you don't know the right answer choice. Okay, and then it can help you a lot with the process elimination. Now I'm gonna just do a quick skim because Rose had a multi-part question, but I want to see if there's some easier questions that could kind of swing and then maybe swing back around to Rose later. So Rembir is saying, dude, that never happens to me personally. So for you, and honestly, those are the kinds of things that it's really just like kind of luck, like bro, if you have like um, a lucky, I don't know, like I can't find anything, but like let's just say you have like a lucky coin from your grandpa or something, like you have like a $1 coin or something like that from like, dude, I'm not gonna say it's not lucky. Hell yeah, it's lucky, dude. Believe in yourself, right? So if you think B is lucky, just fucking choose B. It's fine. Yeah, statistically, nothing's right. Like nothing's ever. It's never gonna be. It's never statistically always gonna be B, right? It can change. Um, but whatever you believe, just go with it. But really, the question isn't what should you choose. It's really like what's the process that you need to follow such that you never end up in that situation in the first place. I mean, um, that's just kind of like blaming the goalkeeper for every goal when that your team concedes, right? Like it's not the goalkeeper's fault for every single goal that the team concedes, right? A lot of times it's the defense's fault, and a lot of times it's actually the midfielder's fault. Like there's a lot of fault can go around, right? So it's not like just that random choosing to try to make the highest probability like guess correct. Look, whatever you think is lucky, just go for it, man. I think when I was a kid, I think I just went with C, but whatever. You just do whatever makes sense to you. How did I improve my vocabulary personally? Did I improve it by reading and doing some SAT or some English exercises? So the good. Uh, that's kind of a so yeah. I can just explain. I can explain how I built up my vocabulary. Now this is a long time ago, but um, first of all, I just read. I read, right? I read for fun. During high school, I stopped reading as much for fun, but I still read during summer breaks. For example, I would still do some reading when I on my vacations, and uh, and obviously you just end up learning words naturally by doing that. Okay, but I didn't like read. I didn't like memorize every word that I saw in those books. Right, that's not what I did. So there's probably words that I saw that I didn't really know the meaning of that I just moved on from. So I didn't learn every single word, but it just helps me just generally increase my understanding of the language, right? Number two is I did all my homework. I didn't cheat my homework. I actually just whenever I have to study for like whenever I have to read chapters, 14 through 16 in like my or like my history book or whatever, I actually did the reading. But by doing the reading, I knew that I wasn't only learning history, I was also learning English. I was also learning, like, I knew that like, I would learn like new words and stuff. Like, I guess it was kind of subconscious, but it was just automatically improving my English just by doing the reading for history classes or for biology classes. Even if you read just the textbook, you actually improve your reading. Then around like junior year. That's when I started using. That's when I started looking for vocab lists. And just every morning, I would just choose a random word from a vocab list, and I would just use it in conversation with my friends. So I would be like ameliorate. Hey, uh, we, God, our lunch options are terrible. We need to ameliorate the situation. I like come up with some way to use that word, and it was just like a little game that I played with myself. Because I had nerdy friends or nerdy enough friends that they would, be kind of down for this kind of thing. So I would just use vocabulary. So I didn't really study for the SAT actually. I studied for AP. I studied for school, but I didn't really study for the SAT. I think I probably took like 2 or 3 SAT practice tests and I was done. Like for reference, I mean, some people just don't know, but I got an 800 when I was in high school. I got an 800 in reading and 800 on math. But there was also a writing section when I took it, and I did not get a perfect on writing because I didn't study grammar. I didn't know grammar rules. Okay, so going back to Suhaima in Pakistan, it got postponed. Okay. Postponed. It's a little confusing, but you're gonna need to call College Board for that one. I'm not sure exactly what the situation is, but more likely than not, they just canceled it for that center. So then you will have to register if you want to take it tomorrow. Then you'll have to register. You have to be registered for a different center, but I don't think they'll be able to do that tonight. It's too late now. Sumad is saying module 2, and dude, good luck on module 2. Uh, okay, and earlier, Rose was asking about how to match the researcher's hypothesis. Okay, and I would say actually, so here's the actual wording of the question, and then here's my rewording of the question, because actually think Rose is probably looking at it the wrong way. So the question was, how do you match the researcher's hypothesis or research with the multiple choice question and the graph and table? Now, that's a pretty complicated question. And I think the fact that the question is complicated shows me, Rose, that the way you're thinking about it is complicated. Does that make sense? The fact that your question is complicated shows to me that your thought process is complicated. It's too complicated and it's probably making it harder for you. So I'm going to change the question. I'm going to simplify the question. The question is, are you supposed to match the researcher's hypothesis with the graph or table or with the choices? Okay. This is an interesting question because it does depend on the strategy you use. So I'm going to go with my strategy, which is the prediction strategy. Okay. But my answer is you're actually supposed to match the researcher's hypothesis to the graph and table. Okay. So what does that even mean? Let me actually just pull up a random. By the way, I do need to go soon. It's been 45 minutes. So after I go through this question, it'll be kind of just I'll just take any verbal questions where I can do some quick verbal responses, but nothing that involves showing. Okay. So this will be my last showing question. Then I'll do a quick fire reply to anything else you ask. You do not need to wait for me to stop talking, okay? Because I can scroll up and down. It's fine. You don't need to wait for me to stop talking for you to ask a question. Just ask the question now, and then I'll quick fire at the end, okay? Anyway, to finish answering Rose's question, here we go. Where's some examples? Here we go. All right. So here I see, right, a table, which I've never seen in my life before, it looks like, a passage, a question stem or question, and 4 answer choices, okay? Now, with this question type, a lot of people are really neglecting the basics. It literally says in the question, support. Now, what's the opposite of support? It could be weaken, right? But in this case, it says support. And then it says the team's conclusion. Well, here's the very basic step. In the process of prediction, here's a very basic step that a lot of people are missing. You literally miss the fact that it says the team's conclusion down here, and it says the team concluded over here. Okay? So this question is specifically asking about this particular sentence. I'm going to read this sentence out loud, but the thing is that I've never read this passage before, so I'm going to read it out loud when I'm at the when I get to that part of the passage. Okay? So the step is to look at this question stem and then to identify the claim over here, or in this case, the conclusion over here. Okay, and that's a step a lot of people literally just do not take. They're just sort of like vaguely looking here and looking here and remembering vaguely what the point was kind of about, and then they're going into answer choices A, B, C, D and hoping that one of them just sort of pop out at them. And if nothing pops out at them, then they just go into process elimination mode where they're just matching these words to these words and then these words to those. It's a total mess, okay? It's a complete mess. All right, let me actually just solve this though, because I've never seen this in my life. Nucleobase concentrations from mm and soil samples in parts per billion. So we have samples 1 and 2, and we have various nucleobases, and we have way more of these. We have way more, all 4 of these on sample 1. Sample 2 has very, very small amounts, and the soil sample in parts per billion. I don't fully understand this part. I'm going to move on. Oh, I see. I don't fully understand, actually. Oh, from meteorite and soil samples. So these are just 3 different samples. Got it. So yeah, this one just has a shockingly large amount of everything. Except this one has a shockingly large amount of adenine. Okay. All right. I just learned some trends. Now, having to say all of that out loud probably made it a little bit extra long, but literally just my analysis of this table probably took me, if you cut down the talking, it probably would have still taken me about 25 to 30 seconds. It was a big chunk of time, dude. I spent a lot of time on that. Here we go. Employing high-performance liquid chromatography, they found they analyzed these samples as well as the soil to determine the concentration of these 5 molecules. By comparing the relative concentration of these 5 molecules, which are known as nucleobases, in the meteorite with the soil, they concluded that there's evidence that the nucleobases in the meteorite formed in space and are not result of contamination on Earth. Okay, so not the result of the contamination on Earth. That means that the soil sample is different from these, right? And that makes a lot of sense because the adenine is so high here compared to these ones, but then all these other ones are much higher than the soil sample. So I'm mainly just looking at A versus IPXH. All right, so researcher's conclusion is here, researcher's conclusion is here. There's evidence that's formed in space. Now let's go back to the question that Sarah asked, or not Sarah, Rose. I don't know why Rose translated into Sarah in my head for me, but sorry. Rose asked, should I look from here to the answer choices or from here to the graph and table? I would say from here to the graph and table. When I look at this part, I'm literally thinking adenine is super high. That is literally part 1 of my prediction. Part 2 of my prediction is IPXH are relatively low in the earth sample, in the soil sample. Yeah. Okay. So that's part 2 of my prediction. I'm going to start with, and what am I going to do now? I'm going to look for ABCD, and I'm going to look specifically for adenine. 1, 2, 3, 4. I see adenine here, but I see adenine and X, and it says detected in both. That doesn't seem like my answer. All the other ones don't really say adenine. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm looking now. B, C, and D. I'm also looking for IPXH, but none of them have a grouping of 4, right? None of them have a grouping of 4. They're only talking about 2 at a time. But I did do a quick scan, and now I'm noticing something. I'm noticing that it's talking about detected versus not detected. So now I'm focusing on IP. And so here we go. This was not my prediction, but now I actually can get the correct answer. IP were detected in the meteor samples, but not in the soil sample. I actually did not really read A and B. I actually did not read D either. A is the closest thing to the one that I actually really read, but I look at C and I'm 100% sure that C is the correct answer. I don't need to double check A, B, and D. Why? Because I did a prediction based on looking at this conclusion and then based on analyzing on my own. That actually led to the wrong prediction, but then trying to match my prediction, I failed to match my prediction. I didn't find one that matched my prediction, but in the process of doing that, I realized I was talking about the word detected. And because I saw the word detected, I could update my prediction. I have a new prediction. My new prediction is that IP are not detected in Earth, but they are detected in space, right? So then I just look for IP, and that was my second prediction and my second match. And I really did not really read A, B, and D, not fully, but I'm so sure it has to be correct, and it is correct. Okay, so what do? I look at the claim, and I look at the table and graph, but why do I do that? It's because I want to make my own prediction. And then a secondary lesson that came out of this particular demo was that when it's a hard question, sometimes your prediction isn't exactly the correct answer. Sometimes your prediction is wrong. In this case, my prediction was actually wrong because this was genuinely my first time ever seeing this question, and I didn't have the right prediction, right? But even then, I don't have to lose my shit, I don't have to lose my head. I can actually just update my prediction because I didn't have the wrong thoughts, right? I had the right thoughts. It's just that I focused on the wrong area, right? So it was very easy for me to just update my prediction after I did a rough skim of kind of like ABCD. Yeah. So I think that kind of it was a messy example because it was a harder question, and it's easier to show how this works on easier questions first, but that is why I would say you look at the conclusion first and you match it to the table and graph first, because you're trying to make that prediction, and then you take that prediction and then you match it to the answer choices. Okay, so that is my final demo for today. I do have to go. It's getting pretty late for me. So let me just do some quick fire, but there's only 2 questions here, so let me just quickly answer to these 2 questions. The first 15 questions are hardest for me. You don't understand the text. What do you do? You are probably reading too fast, and you're probably not even really reading. Your eyeballs are sort of just like rolling over them, like just kind of leaving slime on the words, but you're probably not really reading. So what is really reading? Now that's harder to define without actually demonstrating what I mean by that. But really reading just means that if you go from sentence number 1 to sentence number 2, you have to just think, what is the relationship between sentence number 2 and sentence number 1, right? If you go from sentence number 2 to sentence number 3, you have to do that again. What is the relationship between sentence number 3 and sentence number 2? And you have to keep building that relationship up. Okay, it's like Jenga, dude. Like you're actually stacking the sentences on top of each other, and if you can't stack, it falls apart. So just because you can stack layers 1, 2, 3, and 5, 6, 7 does not mean, but you're somehow missing layers 4, 5, 6. That doesn't mean it's going to hold up, dude. You have to actually stack it linearly: 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5 to 6 to 7. Now, some of these sentences are going to be really hard, so you may just have to kind of sacrifice one of them. But reading actually means establishing those logical relationships, right? Understanding what happens there. So instead of reading 3 or 4 times, dude, just try reading 3 times slower, but not slow just to be slow. Slow because you're trying to understand the connections between the sentences. If you do that, then you'll probably have a very different experience. That said, can you really apply this advice tomorrow on the real test for the first time in your life? I doubt it, honestly. I think you'll probably need some practice with this thing. So for now, for you, I would probably just recommend just start with the writing questions and save the reading questions for last, and just accept that you're going to have to sacrifice a bunch of those questions. Maybe out of 15 questions on the hard module, maybe you'll have to sacrifice 8 of them. I don't know. But just make a cold, calculated, just approach that I will sacrifice 8 questions. It's fine. And then just focus on the other 7 questions instead. And that'll help you kind of get over that stress. Can I go over one or two quantitative evidence questions, please? I actually did go over one earlier, so if you actually just maybe you came to the stream a little later. Actually, no, I think you're here. Wait. Oh no, it is this. Okay, I just did it. I just did it. So I literally just did it. So yeah, I think you saw that, and so that question you probably asked me before I did it. So guys, I just want to say good luck on the test tomorrow. Breathe, get some walk, um, say some compliments to your friends. Make everyone around you feel good. Stay away from like the panicky, worrying types. Stay away. Even if they're your best friend, if your best friend tends to like panic and worry all the time, just stay away. Just cut that out of your life for just one day, okay? Just one morning. Just cut that out of your life for one morning. Try to stay positive, and if this video was helpful for you, if this stream was helpful for you, please hit the like button just to let other people know that this is good advice. And for more similar content on SAT, but not just SAT, reading and writing as well, you can subscribe to my channel. And if you want to support me as I develop, as I do this side gig, it's not really making money. YouTube doesn't really make me money at all. But if you'd like to support me as I make more YouTube videos, then yeah, you can look into how to become a supporter in the description below. Okay, guys, that's it from me. Yes, the reading passages do get harder. The passages don't necessarily. I don't know. It's kind of up and down. It's kind of random, to be honest. It's a little random. So here's what I want you to. So for that particular concern, guys, Hashim and everyone else, guys, imagine the worst thing that can happen. Yeah, the worst thing that can happen. Maybe you're weak on poetry. What's the worst thing that can happen? They'll have like 3 poetry passages in a row, right? Imagine the worst thing that can happen. Okay. Now, here's the next thing that you have to do. Tell yourself, let's just assume it will happen. What are you going to do? All right. So come up with a solution to that particular problem. Just expect the worst, man. Expect the worst, and then just have a solution for it. And the solution might just be to skip the 3 poetry questions. I don't know, and then to come back around it to at the very end. All right, that's fine. All right, that could be your solution. But just expect the unexpected. Expect the absolute worst, guys, and then have a solution for that worst. I think that's called Murphy's Law. It is called Murphy's Law. So with that kind of twisted negative feeling kind of advice out of the way, all right, guys, good luck on tomorrow's test. And regardless of tomorrow's test, I want you to know, some stranger on the internet thinks that all the work that you put into studying for the SAT is going to pay off. Maybe it won't pay off tomorrow, but all the work that you did, all the vocab studying, all the grammar, right? That's going to make you a smarter person, a more literate person, a more communicative person in the future. And so regardless of whether you get the perfect score tomorrow or whether you get the perfect university admissions match, half a year from now or whatever, right? Just know that you're kids. You're growing, and this is just building up your stats, your skill points, your experience points, and you're gonna be like this amazing killer mage or whatever, right? If you just keep leveling up, and that's just the journey you're on. So I know it can feel a little bit arbitrary, like the College Board and these stupid little tips and tricks or whatever, but kind of phase that shit out, okay? Just wipe your mind of all that stuff and just remind yourself that actually you are fundamentally, all of the work that you put into this in the last couple of weeks or months is actually fundamentally improving you. It's actually making you a smarter, a more intelligent, a more literate, a more linguistically dexterous person, okay? So good luck on the test tomorrow, and as always, keep on learning, keep on growing. All right, peace.